A man was taking it easy, lying on the grass, staring up at the sky and the clouds, and he decided to talk to God. He said, "God, how long is 1,000,000 years to you?" God answered, "In my frame of reference, it's about a minute." "Oh God, how much is $1,000,000? God answered, "To me, it's like a penny." Then the man asked, "God, can I have a penny?" God said, "In a minute." I bring that up because of God's promises to Abraham and Sarah, and God's promises to us. God promised Abraham and Sarah a huge family that would turn into a nation. He promised a land for that family to live in, a land flowing with milk and honey. And God promised to bless his family and make their name great so that the whole world would be blessed. He says in Genesis 12, "I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." And we've seen how this is happening, but it's not happening overnight. It's taking generations. And maybe that's why Peter said, thousands of years later, "With the Lord, one day is like 1,000 years." Abraham and Sarah, we know, had a son named Isaac. That's one child. Isaac and Rebekah had 2 children, Jacob and Esau. Jacob had, with Rachel and Leah, 12 boys and a girl. And when the sons of Israel left Egypt, it says in Exodus 12, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the women and children. You see, God is keeping his promise to Abraham because God keeps his promises. They are turning into a mighty nation. Now, last week we heard about Joseph and how God blessed Joseph, even though Joseph faced terrible trials and tribulations. God still blessed him. And God used one specific blessing, a gift that Joseph had to interpret dreams. And God used that ability to make sure that the Egyptians had enough food when a famine was coming. And they had enough food, in fact, to feed the whole world. So there's one example where the blessing of God on Abraham's family blessed the whole world. Today we are seeing God's blessing on God's people once again. God blessed them by getting Pharaoh to let them out of slavery and out of Egypt. But then Pharaoh changed his mind. He said, "How in the world did I let all that free labor go?" Because you know how much you pay slaves? Practically nothing, just enough to keep them alive, food enough to keep them alive. When he changed his mind, he sent his army, and we saw how Yahweh fought for his people, how he destroyed those who cursed his people, as he had promised in Genesis 12. "Those who bless you I will bless, those who curse you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Now, this is a significant blessing. The Israelites were up against it. On one side, the Egyptian army. On the other side, the Red Sea. Nowhere to go. They had nowhere to go. They had no weapons. They were not trained in warfare. Plus, they had their women and children with them. What could they do? They could do nothing but die. And that's what God wanted. Not that they die, but that they do nothing. God would do the work. Now, we do a lot of talk. As long as I can remember, we've been using the slogan, God's work, our hands. Talking about how God works through our actions, and God does. We do work for our family, for our friends, for our neighbors, for people we don't even know around our community and around the world. And God does a lot of work in that way. And when we team up with God and we do that kind of work, it feels good. I mean, like the work that we do with Habitat for Humanity, or maybe the Crop Walk, work doing things like Feed My Starving Children, packing food for starving people. And we have women that work on quilts, and we do lots of things, and you all do lots of things, both as First Lutheran and as individuals. And when we do things for other people and we work as God's agents, we feel good about that. And sometimes God enlightens us on how to face our own challenges in life. God shows us what to do and what not to do. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what to do and whether we should do this or that. That's a struggle. And sometimes it's a struggle knowing whether we should act or we should just rely on God. Let's take Abraham, for example. And let's look at Abraham. I know it's a different time and place, but let's try to look at Abraham and give him the benefit of the doubt. There were a couple of times when he went to foreign countries with Sarah. And, Sarah must have been a real looker. At least Abraham thought she was. Because he thought, well, when I go to these other countries, they're going to see Sarah, my wife. They're going to kill me and take Sarah. So here's his plan. Okay, Sarah, when we go to this other country, what I want you to do is say you're my sister. That way they won't kill me and we'll survive. Now, I said, let's just give Abraham the benefit of the doubt. I'm not trying to justify what he did, but was that an example of him using his God-given ability, his shrewdness, to avoid danger to himself, to solve a problem? Of course, we know that was not the right answer because we've read the book. We know that what he really should have did is nothing. He should have just trusted God. That's what the Israelites did. Now, you could say, look, the Egyptian army's there, the Red Sea's there, we've got no soldiers, no weapons, nothing. We have no choice. Oh yeah, they have a choice. And they started down the road to the other choice. They started to give up hope. They started by saying outrageous things like, it would have been better for us to stay slaves. Why did you take us out here? To die? There were no graves in Egypt. We had to be buried in the wilderness. The best thing Moses did was he reminded them of the hope that they had. Even though they were up against it, they had hope. God would provide. Don't give up hope on God. It's good to be with God. It's nice having Yahweh on your side. There's lots of things we can learn from this reading. I think the best thing is when we're up against it, not to forget that there still is hope. This week in our men's Bible study, the guys were talking about this documentary about the Mayo Clinic and all the marvelous things that the Mayo Clinic can do for us when we are sick. And some of it borders on miraculous, right? We are really fortunate to be close enough to the Mayo Clinic and to other health facilities that can help us. But they can't do everything. There are times in our life when, if you're sick and the Mayo Clinic can't do anything, or you have other problems and you just don't have any other recourse, do not give up hope. You have a God that loves you and cares for you. Rely on him. Amen.